Hello everyone. Well, the absence of serious political commentary on YouTube is quite noticeable at this point. I'm not really complaining about it. I kind of expected this right after an election. It always goes that way. But at this point, there is no longer any excuse for it. And so we should all be involved in this and not quit making our political videos, because there is much to be said after an election. Because if we just follow our politicians who are waiting for us just to pay attention until the next election comes around, then we're probably screwed. So I will continue with my political commentaries on here, and my view counts are very bad right now, which is just a sign of the times, of course. So I'm not going to complain about it. Let's just go on with the issues, and I'll read you an article called "Let's Rethink Military Escalation in Afghanistan Before It Is Too Late." Now, this all pertains to our new administration, which has just been elected. The article is by Z.P. Heller, and it was first published on the Huffington Post. I don't read that website too often, but it came to me via another channel. And so let me quote some excerpts from this article. Why is our government sending an additional 30,000 U.S. soldiers to Afghanistan? So far, not even members of the Obama administration seem to be able to answer this question. Last week, the nation's Robert Dreyfus had a chance to ask Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, who has just been basically reconfirmed as Secretary of Defense, and Admiral Mike Mullen, why they're pushing to double our troop presence in that country. Both Gates and Mullen said that while they're thinking about the war in Afghanistan in terms of 3 to 5 years, in terms of time frame, their immediate goals are completely unclear. What's more, a final decision has not been made, which is where we come in, because we may actually have something to say about this. Like Dreyfus says, the fact that a final decision has not been made is key, because it opens the door just ever so slightly for a much needed public debate about what 30,000 more soldiers could possibly achieve in that country. Some of the big questions that must be addressed include whether those extra troops alone will be able to secure a lasting peace in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and the United States? That seems very highly unlikely, considering each military operation targeting insurgents, like the one yesterday, that killed 15 civilians and 16 innocent, that killed 16, over again. Like the one yesterday that killed 15 militants, supposedly, and more than 16 innocent civilians in that particular approach. Just as important, we must ask how we're planning to pay for this escalation, considering our economic crisis at home and the fact that so much of this war has been paid by borrowed money. And is committing tens of thousands more troops really the best way to help a war-torn nation with 40% unemployment, that's in Afghanistan, unless we want to follow in their footsteps? Proponents of escalation, like Karin von Hippel, an Afghanistan expert at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, suggests that 30,000 more troops will make a psychological impact. Maybe here. It's not going to make a psychological impact in Afghanistan, I can tell you that much. So, wouldn't it be better to just send some economic aid, humanitarian aid in that direction, and also in the direction of Gaza, in order to diffuse the hostility across the board? But no, this is not what is on the agenda. And Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is simply calling Afghanistan a narco state. Perhaps Andrew Brocevich, an international relations professor at Boston University, he's not in the government, by the way, and authors of Limits of Power, The End of American Exceptionalism, put it best when he was quoted in the New York Times as saying, "There's clearly a consensus that things are heading in the wrong direction. What's not clear to me is why sending 30,000 more troops is the essential step to changing that. My understanding of the larger objective of the Allied enterprise in Afghanistan is to bring into the existence something that looks like a modern, cohesive state." Well, it could be that we have an unrealistic objective here. And my comment would be is that objective is probably a false front to begin with. Throwing money and lives down a rat hole is exactly what Derek Crow found on Daily Kos recently when he did the math to figure out how many troops might actually be called for in Afghanistan in order to quell dissent. Crow points out that by the military's own standards, a successful counterinsurgency operation could require 655,000 U.S. troops throughout Afghanistan, or if the military simply wants to go after some insurgents, like 14 million Pashtuns, we're still talking about 230,000 troops. You know, you may want to ask the Soviets who were engaged in that country for many, many years to see how it turned out. If that's the case, then why send 30,000 troops to Afghanistan in the first place? And this question should be asked by us and of the Obama administration. These questions are not being asked in the public, and we need to bring these questions up again and again. We are facing dire economic circumstances in this country. So perhaps, you know, the elites are figuring with starting another war someplace else, the money will flow in once again. And perhaps we can have more employment in the defense sector, or let us say perhaps the aggressive sector. I'm not sure what to say, but people need to speak out, please, and don't quit making your videos. If we can't even speak out anymore, I don't know how we're going to change anything. People in other countries are taking to the streets and shutting down their governments, and Americans are too complacent. We're just sitting around and just hoping for the best. There needs to be a concerted effort, at the very least, speaking out against what's going on or what is continuing. Because nothing will change if we don't at least do this, and it has to probably go further. Good night.